Welcome to the Premier League preview show. It's game week 21, but this game week we've got a mixture of matches. Some matches are being played this week, 5 of those in total, which we'll be looking at over the next few moments. And we'll also be taking a look at what other games we've got coming up on the channel in the next few days as well. You're listening to the Comment Job 2, JB Sports and Focus on Football. Storm FM will have the commentaries that we've got coming up for you, but the preview shows not on there this season. Hopefully we'll continue the preview shows next season, and we'll add Storm FM to that. Before we go into Premier League game week 21 to tell you about, let's just take a quick look at the Premier League table that we had from last time out, which we have got plenty of here in the matches that we've got coming up on the channel over the next couple of days or so, which we will bring as we've got the table up there right now. We'll just bring the other two guests back in a short while. We'll fetch those two back in a short while, but let's just take a quick look. We've got a couple of guests backstage for that, and the Premier League table looks like this. Liverpool currently top of the table from week 20. You'll see on there Man City, Luton, and Bournemouth and Brentford all in on 19 games. Bournemouth and Luton game was because of the Tom Lockyer incident to the Brentford, and Man City one was due to Man City being played in the Club World Cup during that game week. So that's why Brentford didn't play then. So like I said, I've got some special guests joining me today. I've always got my co-host with us. He's back with us this time around. He's Paul James. Paul had a little break last time before we did a preview show, but Paul's back with us now. I'm Paul. How you doing, my friend? You okay?
I'm good, thank you, Russ. How are you?
Yes, really good. Thank you, my friend. And the man who stood in for him last time on the preview show is back with us. He's back as a guest this time around, though. Is Luke Turton. He's back with us today. Luke, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad, Russ. Not too bad.
Good to have you both on here as well. Let's just tell you what games we've got coming up on this preview show. We've got Burnley against Luton, Chelsea against Fulham, Newcastle against Man City, Everton against Aston Villa, and Manchester United versus Tottenham Hotspur is the fixtures taking place this weekend. And as you can see, we've got 3 live games there on the channel, which we'll tell you about a little bit later on. And starting off with the game tomorrow features Burnley against Luton. It's a relegation 6-pointer if there ever was one, as we just saw with the table a few moments ago. First of all, before we get the thoughts of Burnley fan heading into this game, Paul James, let's feature a neutral in this one and ask Luke Turton. Luke, this is going to be a good game. I know you're going to be on co-coms for this one on the comment job tomorrow alongside Paul. But how do you see this game going, Luke? And do you reckon Burnley could get yet another home victory, having already got one this season over Sheffield United against a fellow relegation rival?
Well, it all depends on whether Burnley can find a way to solve their ever gaping hole at the back in their defence. I think Luton are going to make it difficult and really, really battle, because that's what they've done all season. They're not going out without a fight. And I think, really, they might have too much for Burnley in this one. I'd like to see at some point Burnley get more points, because I think there is a lot of potential within their squad, but potential does not win you football matches, and they've got to start as professionals doing better on the field, because it's all well and good Burnley fans having a go at Vincent Company, but at the end of the day, those players are the ones that are on the field.
Yes, and some Burnley fans, I can see why some are having a go at Vince Company, because he's the one who trains them and puts them out onto the field and with the tactical plan. So do you think some of the blame should go to Vincent Company as well as the players, Luke, or do you think the players should take the majority of the blame for you?
I think Vincent Company has to shoulder probably the majority of it, because he is the manager that tends to be who takes the majority of the blame. But I do think that the players do get away scot-free a lot of the time. They get managers sacked week after week sometimes, and they really should take some responsibility for their own performances and do better. I mean, there is some evidently good players in that Burnley side, but they just can't seem to knit anything together at the minute.
Absolutely, Luke. Absolutely there, my friend. Let's fetch in the Burnley fan, Paul James, who's with us today as well. And Paul, this is going to be a big game for your side, Burnley up against Luton Town. Paul just said that it all depends if Burnley can stop the gaping holes in defence, whether Burnley can get something out of this one. How do you see this game going yourself, my friend?
I think it's a Luton victory. I'm sorry. Luke mentioned there that they've got to try to control the gaping hole in defence. They've not been able to do that all season. They've tried different combinations at the back, and it's not worked. What is sad for Burnley, they have an excellent record against Luton. They haven't lost to them for almost 24 years. March the 7th, 2000 was the last year that Luton got anything against Burnley in terms of a victory, 2-0 that day. But since then, Burnley have dominated this fixture, and to be honest with you, it's be a shame to see that go out the window this weekend. But I don't see it going any other way right now. Defensively, Burnley are. I don't know what's happened, especially having a coach who himself as a player was one of the best defensemen I've ever seen. He was outstanding at the back, was Vincent Company, but now we've got this team that is defensively very, very poor. And I don't see them beating Luton. I think Luton at the moment have a strong work ethic. They've got great motivation. They can get out the relegation zone, at least temporarily, with a victory, depending on the Everton and Aston Villa result. And that's a tough game for Everton. So, there's a chance for Luton to actually get out the bottom three here. I don't see this. I'm sorry. This is maybe me being negative, and you can call me negative. I've said this before on Luke's channel. Call me negative if that's what you want. I don't care. This is how I feel. I don't see them getting a victory.
And Paul, I know you say you don't see them getting a victory, and I'll come to Luke on this point as well in a minute. But if Burnley are to get a victory, they've got, for me, James Trafford needs to be on top form, and the defenders need to perform in front of him. Who do you see out of the back line? Do you think you look at that Burnley side line, potentially will go out to the weekend? Who, if you want to look at back from the last game, if you've got that same line of back four from the last game, which one of those players do you think Burnley will be more reliant on to get them the victory this weekend? I know you say you don't think they will, but which defender do you think would have to step up and show some character to get and great determination to help Burnley get over the line and get 3 points in this game?
Well, if you want to talk about an individual, you can't really talk about the back four that way, because the entire back four has to be on their game. But if you want to talk about an individual, it has to be James Trafford. He's come up with some criticism this season, grossly unfairly so, in my opinion. He's made 81 saves this season. He's second in the division in saves made. So he's a decent goalkeeper. Yes, he's young, and yes, he's going to make mistakes, but he's a decent goalkeeper. And aside from the Sheffield United result, any other game that Burnley have got points from this season has been as a consequence of him keeping Burnley in the game.
Yes, absolutely. Well, would you agree with that? And or which defender would you say would be key to helping Burnley win this game in the defensive battle in this game against a very good Luton Town outfit?
Well, against Luton, it has to be the fullbacks because they're going to throw the ball into the box towards Adebayo. If you can stop the crosses coming into the box, then that's half of the battle already. Because then they're going to have to start passing it more acutely, and then that's more in your midfield to then stop the ball to getting there in the first place. I, I, I feel like the goalkeepers are very easily come for criticism when you're conceding a lot of goals. When actually, I look at the defenders and I think, well, what are they doing to allow the ball to get through into those positions in the first place?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's absolutely correct. To your Paul and Luke on the game on Friday evening here on the commentary. Make sure you tune in for that one. I'll tell you a bit more other games that we've got coming up as well. Next game we're going to turn our attention to is the West London derby in the Premier League this weekend as Chelsea host Fulham in the Premier League this weekend. And Paul, heading into this one, this should be a very good game. Fulham very unlucky not to pick up a victory against Liverpool in the League Cup. On Wednesday evening, Chelsea lost out to Middlesbrough on Tuesday. I'm just looking at the last defeat for Chelsea, which against Fulham was back in January 2023, which was a 2-1 Fulham win with Willian and Carlos Vinicius on target. Willian, a former Chelsea player, of course. Last time they lost at Stamford Bridge against Fulham was back in 1979, which was in the League Division 2 that day. And Ron Harris was one of the Chelsea players who played that day. Graham Wilkins also featured. Clive Walker was on the bench. Not sure who played for or scored for Fulham in that game, but those were some of the Chelsea players in that side back in October 1979 for the last victory for Fulham at Stamford Bridge. They've got it's been a tough place for them to go since then. How do you see this game going, Paul?
Well, you got to feel sorry for Fulham. I mean, they've had a wretched record against Chelsea. I'm just looking at it now, actually. While we're talking, they've had 2 wins in the last 40 games in all competitions against Chelsea. And as you say, rightly so, the last victory at Stamford Bridge was in 1979. Now, that was the last of 3 straight victories they had over the Blues. After that, well, it's been nothing apart from 2006 and more recently in 2023, of course. But that is they've got a horrible record against the Blues. If you was a betting man, you probably want to favour Chelsea if you were a betting man. But I mean, honestly, I think in all realistically, I don't see Fulham getting a victory here. And I know that's probably going to take me off Barry's Christmas card list, but I got to be honest, I don't see Fulham getting the victory at Stamford Bridge. Maybe a point.
It may be a point, but if they're taking some sort of performance that they put in at Anfield on Wednesday evening against Liverpool, maybe they can have a bit of a good go trying to get more than a point next to it until the substitutions from Jurgen Klopp were made in the Liverpool Fulham game in the EFL Cup first leg last night. Until that first, or Wednesday night, should I say, for anyone listening, on Friday or before this game's played, until the substitutions from Klopp, they were fully in control and should have been 2-0 before the equaliser came from Liverpool on Wednesday evening, Paul. And Fulham just need to take the chances, man. If we can start taking chances against Chelsea be Preston, but it's a division below Preston to where Chelsea are. So Chelsea got better quality players than Preston. But with Fulham playing as well as they are doing in the league, if Fulham can take the chances, which they have been doing in the league, Chelsea could have a really it could be a really long afternoon for Chelsea.
Yeah, well, Chelsea aren't exactly on their best right now. If Fulham are going to get a victory over Chelsea, now is the time to do it. They've been much improved in the last 5 games, 3 out of 5. But they didn't come against teams that were very high flying, like Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, and Luton. Those victories came over. They were still defeated away at Goodison Park and away at Molineux. So there's questions to be asked of Chelsea. They're in 10th place. Fulham, of course, in 13th. And well, it's a West London derby, so expect there to be lots and lots of fireworks. But yeah, derbies are always difficult to say. But Chelsea have such a good record against Fulham. I just don't know. I don't
Yes,
see a Fulham victory at all. I'm sorry.
Yes, but in derby games, form normally goes out of the window.
It
Let's
does
switch in.
normally, yeah.
Let's switch in Luke now. And Luke, Chelsea against Fulham. How do you see this game going, my friend? And do you, like Paul, think Chelsea will get the victory, or do you think if Fulham play like they did in the game against Liverpool, potentially from what you may have heard from Michael Matrey on the T-Sub on Wednesday evening, Fulham could potentially get something from this game?
I personally think Fulham can get something out of this game anyway, because they've seemed to have gathered themselves now, and Jimenez, Willian, Decorative Reed, and Iwobi have definitely formed this kind of formidable kind of quartet, if you will, up there. And I think when it comes to Chelsea and how many players they've signed again that are very young, they've got talented players, but they just don't seem to live up to it. Enzo Fernandez is a great example. What has he done since he's come to Chelsea? Like, there has to be a little bit of an assessment throughout that squad to say, well, what is our best 11? Who do we actually want here? Who needs to go? Like, what do we need to add here that's actually going to give us some form of quality? Because for Chelsea to be as low as they are is actually quite mediocre. They really should do better than they are. But Fulham have definitely looked the more impressive side this season. They've looked more dangerous going forward. And yeah, I think Fulham are probably more likely to win here.
Yeah, I think Fulham could potentially get to win here as well. So, Luke, I think me and you will be on Barry's Christmas card list for next year. I think Paul will be the one that's been crossed off it at this moment in time. Maybe JB's crossed off it as well for some of the stuff that he was been saying regarding Fulham against Liverpool, which we won't go there. But I think JB's off Barry's Christmas card list as well, Paul. So you're not on your own with that one, my friend.
We're in the naughty corner.
Yes, you and JB will be in the naughty corner, and I wonder if he'll continue to be for another show that you do with Barry and the team over there, which are very good friends of ours at Football Live. Go and check them out. Brilliant FM every Saturday and Sunday afternoon. Keep you up to date with not just the Premier League, but also the major leagues across Europe as well. Great bunch of lads over there. Lads and lasses over there, should I say. I don't want to single out all the lads with Molly and Kendall being a part of Football Live as well. So go and check those out. They've got a great bunch of people working over there, including our very own Barry Swin and also a friend of the channel as well, in John Kane as well. Good people over there. And you can also get to Paul James over there as well. And I was on there over the Christmas period as well. So go and check those out when we're not on air and they're on air on Saturday afternoon and a Sunday afternoon as well. So then we're going to move on to our next game, and this is going to be another match. Before we move on to that one, I would say Chelsea Fulham is also going to be a live game. They can hear with the two guys that's on with me today as well, Paul and Luke, doing double duty this weekend on Friday and Saturday for us. So make sure you check those out. The Chelsea game is at 12 kickoff UK time on Saturday lunchtime. Make sure you check that out if you can with the wonderful guys, Paul and Luke, providing the commentary for you there. Next up, we're going to look at a game which is taking place at St James's Park between Newcastle United and Manchester City, which has been a good matches in recent times, especially since Newcastle got the new ownership with the money, Amanda Savely and those there. Both teams playing very good football in the league at the moment as well. Last time out in the League Cup, Man City were knocked out by a 0-0 by Newcastle United back in September. The last couple of league meetings have seen Man City win both of those in August at the Etihad and at the Etihad back in March early on this year for the 22-23 season. Newcastle's last win in the Premier League, we'd have to go back to 2019 for this one, which was a 2-1 Manchester City, 2-1 Newcastle victory, should I say, over Man City. Sergio Aguero scored for Man City before Salomon Rondon and Matt Ritchie with a penalty for Newcastle. And just before we get the thoughts of the two guys there for that game, the question for you both is, we'll see who knows it, and I'll reveal the answer in a moment as well. So, listening back, I'll reveal the answer in about 5 minutes after we've got the thoughts of those two people, my guests, Luke and Paul, thoughts on the fixture. I'll reveal the answer to this question. Well, I want to ask you both a question. I'll come to you first, Paul, to get your answer, and I'll get yours in a second, Luke. In 2019, January 2019, when Newcastle beat Man City 2-1, Paul, what I want to know is who was the Newcastle manager?
In 2019?
Yes.
I don't know. It was before Steve Bruce, I think. I'm not sure. I'm going to go with Steve Bruce, although I know I'm probably wrong.
And Paul, that was just Paul who gave Steve Bruce's answer. Luke, who are you going to go for?
Rafa Benitez.
I can tell you, so you've heard those two there. If you listen back to this show, guys, I'm going to put your guess in the comments below. Let's do so. Put them in, and we'll read it out, and we'll have a look see who gets it correctly in the live comments just below this video after the video is finished. And if you want to put them in the live chat when he's going out later, you can do. We'll check who gets the answer correctly. So before we reveal the answer to that question, this is going to be a good game, this one, I feel. And Luke, how do you see this game going? Newcastle against Man City.
Well, it's two sides that started very well and have since faltered a little bit, faded out. Man City not as much as Newcastle. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Newcastle since the Champions League game, but they don't seem to be the same side. They seem to be a bit lethargic and a bit not with it. Hopefully that win in the FA Cup has rejuvenated them a little bit now. Man City, Rodri's going to play more than likely, so Man City will have the attacking force to go forward because he's pivotal to everything going forward, getting the ball from the defenders and playing it to people like Bernardo Silva. I think also the reintroduction of Kevin De Bruyne, that will also definitely help them as well. Where I see it, again, I'd still say City will win this one.
And Paul, for you, do you think, like Luke, City will win this one? And look, I just want to say, I think you're going to be off Liam Busby and Jack Cunningham's Christmas card list for saying Man City's going to beat Newcastle here. Paul, how do you see this game going?
I'm sorry to say, 12 goals conceded in 5 games in the league. I only see it going Manchester City's way. They've been outscored in the last 5 games, 12-6. It's 12-7, but they're conceding that many goals in 5 games. It's pretty poor. Let's just do the math here. that's 2.40 goals a game. That's what Burnley are conceding right now. One win in that time, that's coming over Fulham. Defeats to Nottingham Forest, Luton. Those are teams, with all due respect to Luke. Those are games that Newcastle should be winning if they want to be chasing the top four. In all fairness, I think
Yeah.
Manchester City will win this game today. Will win that game. Sorry, on Saturday.
Yes, I think as well. I think all three of us are going to be off the Christmas card list of Jack and Liam. So I'm going to go for a City victory as well. I can't see any other than a City victory. I know Newcastle have played some good football, but I think this was just slowly coming off in their Premier League campaign ever since they lost to AC Milan in the Champions League. I think the wheels have just falling off, and they've just plummet down the table now. So the answer to the question then, guys, was I asked the guys who they thought the manager was for Newcastle United when they beat Man City back in January 2019. Paul, you said?
I said Steve Bruce, but at the minute Luke answered it, I knew Luke had got it correctly.
And Luke, you said?
Rafa Benitez.
What we'll say is, if anyone has guessed Rafa Benitez correctly, you are spot on. Rafa Benitez was in charge of Newcastle from March 2016 to June 2019. Steve Bruce, Paul, was the man after Rafa Benitez from July 2019 to October 2021. So, Luke is correct. And if he also said Rafa Benitez in the live comments or in the chat down below, congratulations to you as well. So we're now just going to take a quick break just to tell people what we've got coming up onto the channel. We've got some brilliant games coming up on the show over the next couple of days or so, which I'm looking forward to bringing to you and letting a lot of people have a listen to here as well. So our next live offering on the TC Hub, as I've already been mentioning, is Burnley against Luton Town on air from around about 7:50 for that game. Join Paul and Luke for that match. Then on Saturday, we've got Chelsea against Fulham from about 12:20. Join Paul and Luke for that one as well. And then on Sunday, we've got more live Premier League action as we've got Everton against Aston Villa. Myself, alongside having the presenter's chair, Paul and Luke as well will be there, bringing you those matches as well. So those will be the next few live offerings from the Premier League that we've got coming up for you on the channel right now. And then in the midweek, after we've had those games in midweek, we've got myself potentially doing some commentaries for in the FA Cup third round replays, which include West Ham United, they're away to Bristol City. And we've also got Blackpool against Nottingham Forest to look forward to as well. So make sure you tune in for those games as well over the next week or so. And that will be for our next Premier League preview show. In between, we'll have a Premier League review show to review those matches that we've got coming up as well. Now, I asked the guys before we went on air to be having a think about I asked Luke to think about his Nottingham Forest player of the season so far and his overall Premier League player of the season so far. And I asked Paul to have a think about his Arsenal player of the season so far. Luke, I'll come to you first. And I'll ask you for your Nottingham Forest player of the season so far. And if you want to give the listeners as a reason why you've picked a certain player as your player of the season so far.
Well, it's not been an easy one to decide somebody to be player of the season so far in January because we've been so inconsistent. It's been unbelievable. But I did narrow it down to two and then narrow it down to one from those two. So I've given it to Orhan Mangala. He's been, especially under Cooper, he was very consistent, very reliable, hardly ever got anything wrong and was very underrated. Nuno, where is he? I did have Murillo in contention too, as another one that's hardly ever let us down, apart from the one game against Liverpool. Again, he's a young Brazilian. He's going to try things and get things wrong. So, but I think Mangala just shades it with the amount of games he's played and also the consistency that he's had ahead of a lot of other players.
Yes, we'll come back to you for your overall Premier League player of the season in just a minute, Luke. So you've got a bit more time to think on that. I'll come to Paul now. And Paul, I asked you to think for your Arsenal player of the season so far. You've been the Arsenal correspondent on the Commentary Hub and JB Sports Commentary Hub 2, focusing on football since the start of the season. Also Storm FM as well. All our partner channels, basically, along with the 2 Commentary Hub channels. Who would you go for your Arsenal player of the season and so far, and why?
It's a difficult choice because a number of names came up. Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice. I went with Declan Rice because he does a lot of the little things right. He's got an average amount of passes of 68.5 passes on average per game. He's delivered 1,371 passes over that period of time. His tackle success is very high for a midfield as well, 57%. He is made 20 appearances and he's got 3 assists and 1 goal. I think he contributes a lot to Arsenal's offensive capabilities and works out well defensively. He's an excellent two-way player, and England are going to be lucky to have him in the Euros. Declan Rice for me, Russ.
Yes, Declan Rice, good shout there for the Arsenal player of the season so far. Luke, I'll come to you in a moment, but for me, for the player of the season, and when I look at this, I'm looking at stats, the overall performances, how well the team's done so far between August and today. For me, I'm going to go for Mo Salah at Liverpool. This season, Mo Salah in the Premier League so far, he has done remarkably well. He has played 20 times in the Premier League this season, scoring 14 goals along the way, joint top scorer in the Premier League alongside Erling Haaland, but he has got the joint top assists as well with Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa. Watkins was up there as well, but it's just the more goals that Salah's got, which has swayed me towards Mo Salah. It'd be interesting to see how Liverpool do without Mo Salah in the Premier League. We only just beat Fulham in the League Cup last night, but for me, Mo Salah is my player of the season. His work rate for Liverpool is phenomenal as well. He's got some really good. Yes, he's got some good players around him, but his quality that he brings to this Liverpool side is second to none. In the Premier League record overall, he has made 251 appearances in the Premier League from his spell at Chelsea and his spell at Liverpool. He has also scored 153 goals and got 67 assists, and that's just phenomenal amount for a player who a lot of people didn't expect him to be that well. His goals per match record as well is 0.61 goals per match for Mo Salah. He's had 891 shots and 389 shots on target for Mo Salah. And when he gets back, he's made 125 tackles, 222 block shots, 40 interceptions, 29 clearances, and 14 clearances with his head as well. He's made 7,359 appearances, which works out at 29.32 passes per match. He's created 103 big chances and done 331 crosses as well. He has won 164 games. Mo Salah has won in the Premier League, 33 defeats as well. And that's his overall Premier League stats. If I just quickly look at this season so far, 20 games, 14 goals, 8 assists. Goals are 0.70 0.7 for his goals per game this season. 65 shots and 33 on target, 51% shooting accuracy there as well. Made 13 challenge tackles, 13 block shots, 2 interceptions, made no clearances so far, picked up 2 yellows, fouls 7, offsides 8, and he has created 17 big chances, and he's only missed 8 big chances, Mo Salah, but his passes, 650, is 32.50 passes per match, 8 assists, 113, lost 1 so far from in games, Mo Salah, and he's just been phenomenal this season. He's been phenomenal overall as well in the Premier League era when he's been in there. Luke, I'll come to you now. Who's your player of the season so far in the Premier League overall?
Well, I can't go as in depth as you, Russ. That was a credit to you. That is some preparation and research to your answer. But I've decided to go for Son at Spurs. There were question marks as to who would fill the role that Harry Kane left when he went to Bayern Munich. And in 20 games, Son has scored 12 goals and 5 assists. So I think that more or less answers the question on who's going to fill that void. That's pretty good going. And I've been very impressed with his overall play as well. And considering that he's scored a lot of goals that were also offside, and some of them very close offsides too, I would say he's been very effective this season. Now he's working alongside people with a bit more pace and is not having to be a understudy.
Yes, and I can just tell the listeners, Son's goals per match is 0.60, and his assists is 5, as Luke mentioned. 534 passes Son's made, 26.70 passes per match. He's created 11 big chances and done 19 crosses so far this season for young Min Son, who's got the Luke's player of the season so far. 288 appearances in the Premier League, 115 goals, 57 assists overall in the Premier League for Son, who Luke has picked as his player of the season. His goals per match in those 115, 0.40 is 57 assists, 7,079 passes Luke Son's made in the Premier League, 24.58 passes per match, 74 big chances created, and 701 crosses. So there's just some stats on the player you picked out as your player of the season so far, Luke. There's some remarkable numbers there.
Beautiful, Russ. Absolutely beautiful.
Yes, so we'll move on now to our next live offering. And you touched upon these earlier, Paul. Everton against Aston Villa. How do you see Everton doing against Aston Villa? It's a tough game for Everton and Sean Dyche. Do you see them getting a victory, or do you think Villa will be too strong for them?
It's difficult to say. The last 3 games haven't gone well for Everton, have they? I mean, okay, they've had a couple of difficult games in Spurs and Manchester City, but 10 goals conceded in 3 games is rather worrying. 8. Losing my mind. 8 goals in 3 games, still quite high. They've only scored 2. Aston Villa look a little bit better. They've got 3 wins and only 1 defeat in those 5 games. I got to side with Aston Villa on this one. I feel sorry for Dyche. He's such a good manager, but I don't see anything but an Aston Villa victory there, I'm afraid.
I think you're probably correct there. I think Villa will be too strong for Everton. And if my friend Limo is listening, don't cross me and Paul off your Christmas card list. He's a big Evertonian. He's my good friend Lee Monaghan, or Limo, as he's known as over on Twitch. Go check him out, Limo57 over there. Plays brilliant football manager and also does some mental health workshops there on Twitch as well. He's a very top man. Go and check him out and go and speak to him if you need any support for anyone who's listening to this out there as well. Lee Monaghan, Limo57 over on Twitch. Go and check him out and tell him that Russ sent you. And he'll be more than happy to help and more than happy for you to just sit and watch him play Football Manager with his Everton saves and some other saves that he's got going there. Look, Everton against Aston Villa. Are you going to make it an hat-trick of Aston Villa victories in this prediction, or do you think Everton can get something from this game?
Well, I think Aston Villa are in red-hot form, and yes, I am going to make it a trio of Aston Villa wins. Purely for the fact that I've just been doing some research into the last 3 games that Everton have played, excluding the FA Cup game, and they seem to have had a downfall in form since Abdoulaye Doucouré hasn't been available. So I think he's been very key to their midfield, and without him, it's proving very difficult for them to get any kind of hold on the game. I mean, against Wolves, they played Onana and Garner in there. Then they went for Gomez, Onana, and Garner. And then the next one, Onana, Guy, and Garner. I'm not quite sure whether that's exactly the order, but I think I did it backwards. But I think with no Doucouré, it's making it very difficult. They've lost that physical presence, the player that's arriving late into the box and scoring goals. So yeah, I think Aston Villa probably will try and exploit the weaknesses within Everton, but also don't write Everton off because they will battle, they'll make it hard, they'll try and drag Villa down to their level. And if Villa let them, then that's exactly where Everton will then go and pounce. So I think there's a very small percentage for me saying Everton might nick it, but a large percentage is definitely saying to sway towards a Villa win.
Yes, and some positive news for Everton in the last couple of days or so as well. You may remember in the Everton game against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was sent off in that game. I would think on that one, I wasn't sure at the time, seeing it back, I didn't think it was a red card offence, although my co-commentator on the day, Bruno Winter, thought it was a red card offence. I can tell Everton fans listening and those who are interested as well that Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be available for this game for Everton after having his red card rescinded by the FA following an appeal by his club. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin available for selection, which is a major boost for Everton going into this one against Aston Villa this weekend. And now we're going to go into our final game of the weekend, and it's going to be a game where a manager has been under pressure for quite a bit. And another manager came in at the start of the season, started off like an house on fire. I know there's a song in there somewhere by Mimi Webb, but I won't sing it. But Man United take on Spurs at the weekend. Eric Ten Hag very much under pressure in this game, going into this game, from not just from the Man United fans, but from the media. I think they could potentially get, it could be potentially his final game in charge of Manchester United. Tottenham picking up a little bit in previous games as well. How do you see this one going? Luke, you go first.
Well, Manchester United are continuing their absolutely poor run in the Premier League, which has been very dominant for many years now. I think the players seem to have got this slowness about them. You can play so far around their centre backs, it is unbelievable. They don't really offer much up front, and you get one good game every 7 or 8 from Bruno Fernandes. He's more focused on whinging at the referee. Whereas Spurs will take advantage of any chances and just run at them. They've got Richarlison, Johnson, and Kulusevski, so they're still very capable of doing things even without Son. So I think, yeah, I can only really see a Spurs win here. I'm trying to be very nice here to Manchester United by just saying seeing a win.
Yes, I think Spurs will win as well, Luke, but I think he'll be a trouncing. I think he could be, if Tottenham play like they can do, I think he could be a cricket score come the end of this game. And if Tottenham have their shooting boots on, that is. And just want to go back to the Everton Villa game, that is going to be on the TC Hub as well for our listeners to listen to, as you can see on our screen just there. We're going back to this game. I think Man United will be can't find a bit of form in the Premier League at the moment. Got through against Wigan only just though via a dive from Bruno Fernandes to get the second goal from the penalty spot. And yes, I'm calling it as it is. Like I'm calling the spade, like I call a spade a spade. I'm calling this as it is. Bruno Fernandes dived for the second goal for Manchester United in the game against Wigan Athletic. Even a few Man United fans I've spoken to said can't believe it was a dive by Bruno Fernandes, especially against a League One outfit. So far, Paul, we've gone 2 wins for Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester United, and which could potentially see the end of Erik ten Hag at Old Trafford. Are you going to make it an hat-trick as well, or do you see something positive coming out of this game for Manchester United at Old Trafford on Sunday?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a hammering. But having said that, though, looking at Spurs at the moment, they really do have their shooting boots on. 13 goals in 5 games. That's a 2.6 goals for ratio. That is a huge amount of goals to be scoring in such a short period of time. And Manchester United, well, on the other hand, they've conceded 1.8 goals against average in that time. That's 9 goals conceded in 5 games, and they've only scored 4 themselves. They're not shooting a lot, not scoring a lot. I honestly feel it will be a Spurs victory. I don't know if it'll be a hammering, but it'll be a Spurs victory. Whether it'll see the end of Erik ten Hag, well, that remains to be seen.
Yes, absolutely, Paul. Absolutely. Just before we do go, so that brings us to the end of this review show. Let's just remind you of what games we've got coming up at the weekend on the channel for us, shall we? We have got Burnley against Luton on Friday evening. 7:50 will be on air for that one. Kickoff is at 8 o'clock for that match on Friday afternoon. On Friday evening, check out your local time, what time that would be for your kickoff time where you are in the world, and make sure you come and listen to us. Saturday afternoon at 12:30, on air at 12:20 is Chelsea against Fulham here on the TCO. But then on Sunday, Everton against Aston Villa, kickoff is at 2 o'clock on air from around about 1:50, 1:45, 1:50 for that one, as Everton take on Aston Villa in the game in the Premier League. So, without further ado, I just want to say a big thank you to the 2 men who are kindly joining us today for this preview show. Paul James, as always, has been the excellent co-host that he is. Paul, thank you very much for joining us today, my friend.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
And of always, thanks for you joining us as well, looking, giving up your time and efforts to chat on the games in the Premier League this weekend.
No worries. I always like to give my opinionated opinions.
Yes, and he does that, guys, even in our group chat off live as well, Paul. Luke always gives his opinions in there, and Paul occasionally puts his opinions in there as well, just like we all do. So, and it'd be boring if we all had the same opinion, wouldn't it? Tune in next week for more previews and review shows coming up, but make sure you tune in for the commentaries as well. We've got coming up this weekend. More the team here. It's very goodbye to you all.